Hi, I'm Caroline Bateman, and I started Achieve Now because I wanted to help dyslexics and others that learn differently achieve their full potential academically. Now, I know that school and exams aren't the be-all and end-all, and you can go on and have a very successful life without formal exams, but having them does make life easier. And I am convinced that with the right support, with the right tools and techniques, that dyslexics can go on and do really well in formal exams. I did, and my own children did. I never set out to teach touch typing, far from it. I just wanted the students that I worked with to get good grades at school. So I'd be teaching them phonics, or how to tell the times table, how to remember things for exams. And alongside it, I just taught people touch typing because I could see they could get better grades if they learned to touch type. Over the years, it's become apparent to me what an essential life skill touch typing is for students. If students can touch type, it enables them to access really helpful functionality that helps them get better grades in homework and in formal exams. As a result, I now teach touch typing more than anything else that I teach students. I'm very aware that not everybody can come on my touch typing course, so I'm going to share now what I teach my students to try and motivate them to learn to touch type. And I'm going to start by showing you how I motivated my incredibly lazy, resistant son to become a good touch typist. I've mentioned already that my son was very reluctant to learn to type. So how I tried to persuade him was I took a piece of work that he'd already done, and this is it. It was descriptive writing, and I know that he worked very hard on this, and he got a good mark. If I look down here, he actually got 1 house point. And he went to a dyslexia friendly school, so they haven't gone through this with a red pen pointing out all his spelling and grammar mistakes, but there are a lot of them in here. But my son proofread it and he couldn't see them, and I'm similar. I can't see my own mistakes. So to try to persuade him to learn to touch type, I put each character that he'd written into a Word document so he could see the help that would be available to him. And I'm going to show you that now. This is the Word document I produced, and most people are familiar with Word. You can see straight away that we have these red squiggly lines that denote that there's a spelling error, and these blue lines that are possible grammar errors, and these dotted lines that are giving us help to make our work more concise and easier to read. So straight away we are getting help that we wouldn't get if we've written our work. And so, for example, with this spelling mistake, which the word should say always, for my son, it would be really hard for him to use spell check because he wouldn't know which one of those was correct. But he can have the
always, similar to, continuously, forever, continually.
As I was saying, he can have any spellings read aloud, and once he had those read to him, he would know that that one was correct. Let's see if we can correct some grammar. Oh yes, to get there, favorite food, we've done that. So we've corrected spelling, we've corrected grammar, but sometimes I find that dyslexic students have very limited vocabularies because they're not reading a lot. So in this very short piece of work, it didn't matter so much, but sometimes they'll use the same word over and over again. So for example, we've said annoyed here. What other options could we have said rather than annoyed? And we'll go into the synonyms: irritated, angry, frustrated, exasperated, upset. And if then that wasn't enough, we could go into thesaurus and get all of these: displeased, provoked, incensed, knocked. So we get a lot more help with vocabulary too. My favorite functionality that I use every day is having my work read back to me. And here you see the read aloud functionality, and if I click that, I'll close the thesaurus, but you see it's opened up a new toolbar here, and not only can I play, I can jump forward or jump back, and I can change the speed, and I can change the voice.
Of mop of red curly hair and freckles. Every year like Luke because he always got a job to tell that make us laugh. Mr. Fraser. Our teacher is called Mr. Fraser, allow everyone call him Fruit Loops because he is quick to...
So you see there, you can hear mistakes that you cannot see. And that gives the students an opportunity to go in and correct them. And I think that is the most brilliant feature. So we've looked at spelling, we've looked at grammar, and here we have an example where word helps us to be more concise. Because in order to isn't necessary, we could just have written to. And something else that I think is worth mentioning, particularly in exams, is we always encourage students to create an essay plan or an answer plan. So what are you going to put in your introduction? How are you going to structure your paragraphs? And what will you have in your conclusion? And what I love about typing is it's so easy to use it to brain dump. And here I've just given an example of, you could start out thinking, oh, this point belongs in paragraph 1, but on reflection decide that it's better in 2. So you can take this out, cut and paste it here simply. This you can add later on if you think, oh, I should have said that, but you'd already started paragraph 2. There's nothing stopping you just inserting more information here. And then here we thought, well, that's a good point in paragraph 3, but on reflection, it's better in 1. And this point in the conclusion, we decided on reflection was better in paragraph 1. And then it's really, really easy to just reorganize work. And if you're in exam conditions and you're writing quickly, then when you've made all these amendments and changes or improvements, chances are it's going to be illegible and very hard to read. And there's more chance of students misreading it and forgetting something vital that they should have included in the answer. So we've just been looking in the detail of word functionality, and I think it would be helpful just to take a step back and say, why is this functionality helpful? How will it help students improve grades? The reason why it's so important is students are assessed by what they write, be it their homework or be it in exams. If it's how they're assessed, if they work really hard and then they do not get good grades, it's really discouraging and demotivating. And it's really easy for students to think, oh, I must be really thick because I spent hours on this and I only got a D or I only got a B when, you know, they were expecting better. And I think as a result of this, children can give up. They can think, well, I'm not very good. Why spend all that time if I'm not going to get a good grade? And so they can have a talent for a particular subject, but because they're not getting high grades, it just goes unrecognised and it's wasted. Something that I talk about a lot is that too often literacy is mistaken for intelligence, but literacy and intelligence are two totally different things. And I work a lot with students who have poor literacy skills, but they're actually very, very intelligent. And this is how I try to explain it to them. When it comes to writing, the literacy side of things is your sentence structure, your spelling, your grammar, your vocabulary. And I'd be pretty rubbish at all of these, as would at least one of my children. But what people are really interested in the real world, when they get to work and when they get to university, isn't the spelling and the grammar. It is, have they demonstrated understanding of a topic? Do they have new ideas? Are they insightful? Do they have helpful observations? Can they do analysis? Are they innovative? And is what they're saying or writing useful or helpful? And I point out to my students that there are no jobs that really require these skills. In the real world, it's the content, it's the quality of their thinking that's important. And so I want to use technology to help them overcome these problems and leave them free to show their intelligence in their writing. So we've shown that if you type your work as opposed to writing it, you'll have better spelling and grammar, and you can even listen to the spelling options. It helps you improve your vocabulary by using synonyms and thesaurus, and it helps the writing be more concise and easier to read, it's much easier to correct and reorganize, and it enables you to proofread. And if you listen to your work, you can hear your mistakes. If once you've heard your mistakes, you go and correct them, you're gonna get higher marks. So yeah, if you can put all these things right and you use technology in order to do this, then you can concentrate more on the content and use the gifts and the talents that the student has, focusing on the content rather than how it's written. So I normally look at this with my students. These are the advantages of touch typing. When you touch type, chances are you will finish your work quicker, which basically means you get away from your homework quicker, or in an exam, you can write more in the same finite period of time. I normally work with students who have handwriting between 7 and about 22 words per minute. And a lot of people come to me because their handwriting is illegible, or their hands really hurt when they write. So typing your work isn't just great for those that are bad at spelling and grammar. There are lots of reasons why typing your work is better. Any exam that a student takes is not only a test of knowledge, it's also a test of speed. I regularly help students get typing speeds of over 40 words per minute. Now, if they come to me with a writing speed of 11 words per minute, over a 3-hour exam, they are able to write so much more if they type than if they were writing by hand. So it really is worthwhile to invest in this skill of typing. And then we've worked out that it also improves the quality of the work, and a lot of the features I've shown you aren't available under exam conditions, but they are available for doing homework. And once you know how to type, it's a great skill to take to university and puts you at an advantage in most workplaces too. And I'm very upfront with my students. It is boring and it is time consuming to learn to type, but I do think it's incredibly worthwhile. And in my experience, as long as students understand the benefits for them for learning to touch type, then they do persevere and become proficient and use this skill to their best advantage. I don't suggest never using handwriting, and I can give you more details as to when I think you're at advantage in using handwriting, but that's for another video. I really hope you found this video useful. If so, please do give it a thumbs up, share it with anyone else who would benefit, and if you subscribe to the channel, I'd be very grateful. But if you do, once you've subscribed, hit the bell button and then you'll be informed when I create new videos like this. Thanks for watching.